For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro. This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO out there. What's going on? We've got a special show at a special time as we're catching up with the winners of the Gerber Collision and Glass Route 66 NHRA Nationals presented by Peak Performance. Going to dive in with Pro Stock Motorcycle winner Gaige Herrera. Can you imagine Gaige Herrera won a race? It's a big shock, guys. No, he's undefeated. And as you win more and more races, you earn your way on WFO. That's the thing. It's about being part of the win. That's our hook. And Gaige keeps winning, and so he gets to be back. And so we're going to learn more and more about him. He's going to answer some questions from the WFO universe. I'm going to ask him about his riding style and how he got here. And we're definitely going to learn something new about Gaige. So if you're a fan of NHRA drag racing, if you're a fan of pro stock motorcycles or motorcycles in general, if you want to see the sport do well, definitely share this show because we're going to have a good time. And we're on at a special time, right? Like when we could do it. And so I need help building an audience and fighting the algorithm. So we need your help. I'm not ashamed to ask to share the show. And even if it's after the fact, share the show so everybody can get to know Gaige, one of the bright young stars. And you're like, yeah, man, he's been on a lot, right? Well, he's undefeated so far since joining Vance and Hines. But we're going to learn a little bit about how he got here as well. Before we get to Gaige, though, I want to remind everybody a couple of big things that are happening. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure, going to Vandermeer Speedway July 24th for the Dragster Adventure, July 25th and 26th, going to Vandermeer. The final time, call 866-480-7223 or go to frankhawley.com if you would like to drive down the track for the final time. The final time, that's right, Vandermeer. We're going to the Final Mile High Nationals. It's very sad. One of the stories, right? Like a step forward, a step back. We've had great events, but we're losing some tracks. This is, the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs of NHRA drag racing in general. But, it is what it is. Take advantage of the Dragster Adventure and go out there for the final time and drive a dragster down Vandermeer. But our other great sponsors who make it possible, like the people at Foggit, Foggit, talking about Steve Williams, Gary Stinnett from Stinnett Automotive. They invented this. This is an invention for fogging racing engines, for keeping the inside of the engine pristine between race days. You go to put it away, you got to make sure the inside of the cylinder walls are protected, and that's what Foggit does, and they're a contingency sponsor as well. It works on firearms, it works on other things. Go to foggit.com to find out more. Plus the folks at Bernie's Speed Shop, BURNYZZ.com. Bernie's American classic horsepower, 100,000 square feet of inventory, exotic cars, muscle cars, motorcycles, bicycles. They've got e-bikes. They've got so many great things. They do restorations, paint and body, everything you can imagine. It's like a little city over there, honestly. Josh Hart has it set up in Ocala, Florida, a beautiful venue. We did the Fan Fest there. It was great. But you can follow them on their website and on social media. Go to Bernie's, BURNYZZ.com. And congratulations to Josh on yet another final round. You have to break through for a win, but they're knocking at the door nearly each and every event. Go to Bernie's. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. We had Michael Heiner was on our Ignition show, and while he was on the Ignition show, he was texting with Hartford, who says that they are, motivated and pissed off for the next race out there in Bristol, that's a good combination. Highly motivated and irritated to go out there to Bristol. So I'm excited about that, but it's all an exercise in informing the public about the importance of ring seal. We're talking about protecting the inside of your cylinders. Well, you got to have good cylinders to make that happen in the first place. And that's where Total Seal comes in. So if you're an engine shop, an engine builder, even if you're doing LS stuff for the street and you're thinking the ring seal doesn't matter, go to TotalSeal.com, call Keith Jones, call Lake Speed, make them your first call, not your last call, and get locked in on the importance of ring seal at TotalSeal.com. And all you got to do is go hit that podcast feed. We're going to be recording some new episodes real soon. Hidden Horsepower, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. Phillips Connect. Jim Epler invented all these sensors. He was a drag racer. He was first to 300. He invented these sensors for over-the-road trucks and trailers, transportation industry. He has now bought in to the Davis Ashley Motorsports team, and they've partnered with Joe Maynard. So it's Maynard Ashley Racing. And so why? Why is all this happening? It's all happening so that they can become even more powerful than you could possibly imagine, like the Death Star. So that they can do cool things, so that they've got long-term stability, and not just that, but they can thrive. It's really exciting. And Phillips Connect is part of it. So if you have got trucks and trailers going over the road and you want to learn about smart trailer technology, all you got to do, go to phillips-connect.com or email me, joe@wforadio.com, and I'll get you set up with a personalized introduction, joe@wforadio.com. FTIperformance.com, Paul Lee's company down there in Florida area. If you are in the automatic transmission need, search Big Money Bracket Racing, .90 Racing, Pro Mod, Top Sportsman, Top Dragster, Big Power. They're a contingency sponsor as well. Just look who the winners are, FTIperformance.com. Later on in the show, we'll tell you about Marvin Rodak, and we'll tell you about Sam Tech. But now it's time to check in with Gaige. All right, Pro Stock Motorcycle fans, time to share the show. Fortunately, everybody checks out the show after the fact, and the podcast listeners are always there. That's where the lion's share of our audience is. But here we are. It's afternoon drive. It's between 5 and 6 o'clock. He just got home from work because he's like a real working man. Gaige Herrera. What's up, Gaige?
Not much, Joe. How's it going?
How was work today?
It was a long day, hot day. It's starting to warm up here. As everyone knows, they were all here last weekend, and it definitely was hot.
Yeah, it was hot. Like Friday, I got in on Wednesday for the press conference and it was cold. And I was like, I'm not prepared. I don't have a jacket. And by Sunday, it was scorching. And somebody said, right, Illinois, you can have all 4 seasons in a week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes a week, sometimes it's a day. The joke always is wait 5 minutes and it'll change. So, but yeah, it was awesome racing here at Route 66.
Yeah, well, tell me about it, right? Your first time. You're a pro now. Not only that, you're with Vance and Hines. You come in with a considerable amount of pressure in that we're making a big deal about Gaige the Undefeated. And you had a lot of friends and family, I would imagine, that were out there watching, cheering you on. And you were able to convert not just 1, but 2 victories. So I'd scored an A+ for the weekend. But tell me about some of the behind the scenes stuff with the fam and the friends and everybody that was out there.
It was awesome. It was probably one of my all-time highs, I would say, for winning. Being here this close to home, I had a lot of family and friends, so it was nonstop, interacting with people, and a lot of new fans came up, and they didn't realize, they were basically my neighbor. I probably had probably at least 3 dozen or so people be like, oh, I live on this street right behind you and this and that. I didn't realize, that was you so close, because for a while on the NHRA, I kind of had my info still that I was in California, so that kind of threw people off. But yeah, being able to interact with a lot of new fans that are close to home and all that, I mean, it was an awesome opportunity, or awesome weekend to do all that. And yeah, I mean, it was not only running good, but being able to be out there in front of all those fans, it was awesome. They sold out the one side of the bleachers, and then they opened the other side. So I mean, it was a good weekend for Route 66 for sure.
So okay, we it's a funny thing that I do because I like to be positive, and I always tell the audience to ignore the negative people out there. But then I don't follow my own advice. And when one person says something negative, like that there was only 10,000 people there, I become fixated on it. Now I should probably just consider the source and ignore it. But I assume that represents a few people out there in the crowd. And I want to prove them all wrong. Like I can't just let that stand. It's a character flaw that I have. Like I can't just let one person say that it's a lie, that NHRA is lying and that there was only 10,000 people there, when that's a ridiculous statement. The facility is giant. 10,000 people would be very obvious. You had an entire half of the place full, and considerable amount of the other side that was opened up due to massive demand. So they don't believe me. Okay. But they probably will believe you. So talk a little bit about the crowd and, was it more than you expected? Was it what you expected first time back at this track?
I would say it was more than I expected. I never really realized how big those bleachers were at that track until being down on the starting line. Just went up there to look at the track because I'd never been down that track before, and then, I just looked around and I never realized how big that facility really is. I mean, it's a nice facility overall. The pits, everything. I mean, it's very nice. So, I personally didn't think it was going to be that busy. I knew, with not being there for since 2019, I think it's the last time NHRA ran there. There was definitely fans nonstop. I mean, even when fuelers were running, there was fans all over. I mean, I went up to the fence a couple times. I think I was about 1,000 foot, and there were 3 or 4 rows back of people nonstop. I mean, it was packed. And then looking in the stands, there was fans everywhere. So it was awesome. Everywhere you went, it was hard to walk around just, to go through the pits, or if you're going up to the lanes. You definitely notice there's a lot of people there, and it was awesome.
Yeah, really great stuff. I want to remind everybody out there, share the show. We're coming on at a bit of an odd time because Gaige is working during the day, right? This guy can't tell his employer, like, hey, man, I got to stop doing the pipe fitting because I got to go do superstar interviews because I'm a professional drag racer now. Like, he's got a real gig. And so just got off work. So we need you to share the show. Please do that. And if you got a question, put it in the chat section. I want to remind everybody, tomorrow afternoon, we'll be in a similar time slot, right around 4 p.m. We're going to have Clay Milliken and Tim Wilkerson on the same show, and they're going to crosstalk. So you're going to get a little Clay, and you get a little Tim. Did you get to hang out with those guys at all in the winner's circle? 2 very popular winners. Tim Wilkerson won his first race ever at Route 66, and Clay made his first runs ever at Route 66. And kind of surprise winners, not that they both are surprising, but just out of nowhere. What kind of camaraderie was there as you guys rode back up from the top end to be a part of the winner's circle stage?
Oh, being able to ride back with, Clay Milliken, Tim Wilkerson, and Dallas Glenn. It was awesome because, all 3 of those guys are down-to-earth people and hard workers. They're all in the position they are because of hard work at the end of the day. So to be able to, talk with them a little bit and all that, that was very cool, to actually get to meet them and interact with them a little bit. Obviously we're all, on cloud 9 because we just won, and it was awesome. I think I had seen, like you said, I believe Tim got his first win there years ago. I forget what year it was. So
99. How old were you in 1999, Gaige?
I was 6.
How about that, Tim? What do you think of that, Wilk? I don't like it either.
Yeah, right.
I don't like it either. All right, let's talk about the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. And I do want to remind everybody that tomorrow we'll be on a little bit later on in the day, but there are people who are watching this like weeks from now that don't even know what I'm talking about. Speaking of racetracks, we're trying to save Palm Beach International Raceway down there in West Palm. And tomorrow is the final commission meeting. And instead of doing a show midday, we were kind of set up to go at like noon or 1 tomorrow. We're pushing it all back, and we're going to go to the commission meeting. I'm going to be there, and I'm encouraging all the race fans from South Florida. My apologies, Gaige, for doing this public service announcement right in the middle, but I want everybody to know that that's why we're doing it. We're trying to save the track, and this is the final battle. This is it. Commission final meeting about the track happening tomorrow, 9:30 in the morning up on Olive Street in West Palm Beach, Florida. And you can find out that information on the web. So I will be going and hopefully representing some racers out there. But Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. This thing is a cool program. Like, nobody understood what it was going to be at first, even myself. Like, is it a good thing? And now that I've seen it exercised, I think it's one of the best things that's ever happened to the NHRA because we get to build the rivalries, right? And you and Chase in the final round, like, you guys had raced a lot previously, but we haven't seen that yet. And through the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge, we got to see it. And I just want to know your experience of racing on Saturday while also qualifying, but there's points and there's money on the line. You were able to win both of your rounds, thus the undefeated moniker. But what was your take on the whole experience?
I thought it was very cool, to be able to race on Saturday. It gets, it gives some people advantage to get in the groove beforehand, before Sunday. So I think it's pretty cool. But not only that, to bring excitement to the fans, and and to the basically it rewards the people that went to the semis or race before at the same time. It gives them the second opportunity, like you said, to race for bonus points for when you're in the countdown, plus a little extra cash. So I think all in all, it's a good thing they got it going. I mean, not only like having the pro stock car all-star shootout.
Yes,
Or call out. Yeah.
The call out, right? You're going to have to call out somebody, bud. Like, I don't know who it's going to be, but you're going to probably have to call out somebody.
Yeah, so I think both of those that they got going on is very, it's awesome, because it brings different kind of excitement for the fans. Because a lot of people that I know of like going on Saturday more than Sunday, only because they get to see everyone run more than once. Based off of because on Sunday obviously elimination, so you get less and less people running, or vehicles. So I think it's good. It draws more people in on Saturday, which is ultimately what we want. We're out there as an entertainment for the fans. So if we get to race in front of more fans and bring more excitement, I think it's all around a good deal.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what you just said about Saturday qualifying being the most popular day, because people get to see more cars run. I've heard that my whole life. That is part of drag racing. It's built into drag racing. Go see final qualifying instead of the race. I personally prefer the race, but I understand why. And so NHRA with a bit of a solution, and we had the Pro Stock All-Star call out going on, and there was all kinds of side wagers. What is your background with Chase Van Sant? I was told that you guys have, mutual respect, and you've raced against each other a lot just in some of these other series. Can you talk about, where and how that all happened?
Let's see. I moved out to Indy in 2017, or Northern Indiana in 2017. So I really didn't know him beforehand. And then I met him at the different sanctions, NHRA and XDA. He's always ran 460. I've never really ran the same class as him. I mean, I think we did some bracket stuff together, I believe. So I would say we probably ran each other a handful of times. Nothing crazy. Like 460. Him and his father run 460, and they're always at the top of the sheet. I mean, that's a very tough class. So I mean, we've became good friends. Even outside of racing, we talk to each other quite a bit, and then at the track, we hang out, help each other, type of thing. It's like I've always said, I feel like racing family is very strong, and you gain a lot of friends, but they end up being a family. And I feel like we're right there with Chase. We're really good friends, and even during the Too Fast Too Tasty challenge, it was still like, we're really good friends, brothers talking, but as soon as we get in the burnout box, it's game on. But so yeah, I mean, we did a few sanctioned, XDA and NHRA together, and I've always ran Pro Street, and like I said, a few bracket stuff. So we haven't raced that much, I would say, but we definitely know each other very well and hang out and so on.
Yeah, I was in the Pro Stock Motorcycle pits on Saturday night. There was a Don Corset celebration of life at the Arana pit area, and Steve Libby put it together. Thank you, Steve, if you're out there, because Don passed away earlier this year. I don't know if you knew Don. He was a guy who pretty much handled the Lucas Oil sponsorship in the NHRA, and he'd been there for many, many years. I knew him for about 10 years that I've been with the NHRA, and he was just a great guy that everybody loved, and he was fun and funny, and passed away earlier this year. So I was hanging out in the pits, and I saw you and Chase kind of hanging out, and had a little conversation with Joey Gladstone, and just, I love the bikes. Like, I'm not a motorcycle guy by birth, like so many are who, had a dirt bike as a little kid, but I really love the pit area. And I love the fact that the Pro Stock Motorcycle, like, there's a lot of fun friction going on there, which I'm sure you're about to learn about if you aren't already learning about it. It's a little fun friction. Rick says, sombreros off to Missions Foods for the deal. AJ saying, hey, Joe and Gaige, congratulations to Gaige on the win. Blake saying, congratulations to Gaige on the win. Crushing the competition, all of that stuff. Great stuff. I do have a question about Karen Stouffer, though, before we get to the round by round, because Peggy Llewellyn was out there this past weekend, and I love Peggy. She had this amazing historical milestone as the first woman of color to win a major motorsports a motorsport event in the United States of America, maybe the world. Like, it's a crazy stat. Happened in 2006 or 2007, and she was on Karen's motorcycle. That's the bike that you ran all last year, correct?
Correct. Yep, that's the same bike I rode, for Gary Stouffer and Greg Underdahl. It just so it's a good machine. It's got the up-to-date 2-valve and all that. Now with the weight brake, Peggy did really good, for not being on a bike in, I believe, 15 years. So she did really good, and I'm glad to see her. They're talking about doing a couple more races, so I hope it works out.
Oh, I hope somebody, foots the bill and gives her some money, because she's a great personality and she's super happy. But I guess we were just talking about the internet, folks. The storyline that has been put out there has been something along the lines of this, that the bike is slightly underpowered, and you rode the bike, to get reps and laps. And even though it's not going to the number one qualifier, it's still a great learning tool and a way to get out there and get familiar with NHRA drag racing and how to ride and all of that. So that is what I feel like we've been saying. But apparently what people have been saying to the Stouffer family is that the guys are saying that their bike is junk. And Karen, and I had a nice conversation about it. And I'm like, no, man, that's not what we're saying at all. Like, oh yeah, that it's a slow bike and it's not competitive. And it's like that I don't think that's what we're saying. So no. I was hoping you and I could talk a little bit about what the purpose of that bike is and what you learned from being on it.
I would say, the biggest purpose of the bike, I mean, Gary always calls it his school bike, because originally he had, a 1640 motor in it, which is what I ran the first two events I did with you at the Nationals. And, that bike's a perfect bike to learn on and get exposure on. It's a good chassis. It's nice to ride. It's got everything, besides EFI and a Motec or a Max. It's still carbureted with MSD, but then again, so is Steve Johnson, and he's out there flying. And it's not the top of the line of the bike, but it's not a piece of junk at the same time. It's got everything capable of winning. Even with the 2-valve motor, I feel like now with the weight brake they got, because last year I had to be 590, and I believe now they could be 570. So yeah, that's 20 pounds. Maybe it was, I know it was 590 last year, so I think it is only 20-pound difference. But yeah, that bike
seems like a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot for sure. So working with them, they're really good teachers. Same with Karen. She's so good at explaining exactly what you need to do as a rider to be more comfortable on the bike. Riding position, head movement, all that stuff. So that bike, is definitely a mid-pack bike, I would say. And there's nothing to knock on that for sure.
Do you think? Let me ask you this, and we're going to talk Vance and Hines. Obviously, your new people and all. But do you think you could have gotten the Vance and Hines position at which you are now undefeated without having spent time on the Stouffer's motorcycle?
Not at all. Not at all. Because at the time, I definitely didn't plan on doing any NHRA stuff or pro stock. It's always been a dream of mine, but I always have a lot of stuff going on between the no bar stuff and all my customers with Grudge and all that. And I at the time, when my dad talked about me doing pro stock, this was when we were still in California. I used to do the river thing and the desert thing, and I used to race dirt bikes at the time I was starting to build my pro street bike. And, he always said, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it. And we're going to stop doing everything else, and be serious about it, because we are a very competitive family. And I go to Gary goes to XDAs with me a lot because he has a bracket bike himself. He rides still. And so one night he just ventured out of nowhere. He's like, hey, you still thinking about ever doing pro stock? And at the time I let my license expire. And, like I told him, I've always wanted to. It's just the money's not there. It didn't make sense to me at the time to spend all that kind of money and all that when there was so much more on the other side of things for me business wise, as far as, because I build motors, wiring, and all that, and track tuning. So, he was like, well, why don't we just put something together with my school bike? I ain't doing nothing with it. And we'll go do the U.S. Nationals. We might not qualify, but at least you could say you ran an Indy and had fun with it and got to experience it. And then, so we only planned to run that one event. And we actually had a little bit of issues. We started putting the bike together and found out the cases were broke on the 1640. And then luckily, Chris Bostic, awesome guy he is, he had a spare 1850 2-valve. So I ended up renting it from him, so that way I could still do the U.S. Nationals. So that worked out good. And then I didn't end up qualifying. It had little issues here and there, which we expected. The bike hasn't been ran in, I think, a couple of years, and I haven't been on a bar bike in, I want to say, 8 years, probably since 2000.
Oh, wow.
No, maybe not that, probably 2015. So 5, yeah, around that time. And so we didn't go there expecting much, and then one race turned into the last 6. And so I definitely would not have got the Vance and Hines deal if it wasn't for Gary and Karen and Greg Underdahl and, Jim at Suzuki Extended Protection. He came on board and helped us with all that, with the traveling and building the new motor. And then a couple other good family friends, Harry Gunnarsson and John and Dia Morgan, and then one other guy, Ness at Able Diecast, is really who made this all happen for me. To give me the exposure to be out there, and it's like I said, I was in the right place at the right time. To meet with Andrew and Eddie and all of them, and it's not something we expected to happen. But Gary said he just wanted me to get out there to show my talent, and it worked out.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
Well, and good, because, there's message boards and there's chat rooms and there's places that I don't even know where large congregations of pro stock motorcycle fans are. And hopefully people are taking this show right now and they're sharing it in those locations out there on all the social media so they can hear this, because Gary and Karen are friends. And when Karen came up and kind of told me, like, yeah, no, the impression is that we've got this like slow bike that people are saying on the web. And that was not what we intended to convey at all. We, it felt like a driver training mechanism, which is exactly what it was. And look what happened with you. And so whoever gets to ride the bike, right? It's like whoever gets to work with Karen and Gary, whoever is fortunate enough to be on that bike, they're going to get attention. People are going to be like, wow, could that be the next Gaige Herrera, whoever that is, number one. And number two, it's, you get to work with those two people. And so that is great stuff. Hey, Dugenet has got a question for you, Gaige. We're going to do round by round, but we're also going to ask people to submit questions. Dugenet covers the sport as well. How difficult is it to not be in awe of those that you've been a fan of when you race with them and around them? Now, that's a great question, because it sounds, you mentioned your bracket racing background, your super comp stuff, you're a drag racing fan, and then all of a sudden now you're staging up against these people.
Oh, it's unbelievable to be able to race with the people that I looked up to growing up as a kid. I think I said in my interview when I won, getting able to race Chip Ellis. I grew up with a poster of him on my wall when he used to run funny bikes with Steve Rice, and then like I took it's kind of, he doesn't run pro stock, but I took a winter circle picture with Larry McBride, and I remember my dad actually told me a story and I didn't remember, but I was playing around in his trailer as a little kid, and one time we went to Indy. So there's stuff like that. It's crazy to look back at stuff like that, or have people bring that up, and then look at pictures like this, from this last week, and having a winter circle picture with them. That's something I'll never forget. It's all time high. But to be able to race, with Matt Smith, and to work with Andrew Hines and Eddie Querrywick, that I grew up watching, and Steve Johnson and all of them, it is difficult, I would say, to race them and keep my composure, because at the same time, I can't believe I'm racing with them, and it's, I think that is awesome, I'm glad, that they're still out here racing, so I get to race with them, against them and all that, and it's it's hard to explain the feeling, I guess you could say, when you're racing people you grew up watching and only to dream to race with them and now living it.
Amazing. On the Spider-Man McBride note, like the guy is gold. What a wonderful man.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
he put a WFO sticker on that bike right before it went 268 miles an hour, and it's still there. And I'm like just amazed, like, wow, man, that's just so cool. Would you ever do that? Like, that seems super fast. And he jumps on, it's no big deal. And I talked to Kelly Klontz, like, Kelly, you jump on that? She goes, oh, hell no. Like no way. What about you? Like, is that something, one of those, what are we calling that? Like a funny bike or whatever? What would you get on that if you were invited?
On something like Larry McBride's, I would say I would. Top Fuel Harley, I don't think I would. Something you got to put a bulletproof vest on to hop on, or not even stand on the bike or be around the bike when you start it. That's something I don't want to be a part of. So, the Top Fuel bikes, I feel like I would definitely at least try it once. I'm obviously a lot smaller than Larry, so it'd be difficult for me to ride or manhandle it around because those bikes are heavy. But that would be something I would try at least once. I might be crazy for saying that, but I think it would be very cool.
Well, good. Larry can't go on forever, and hopefully he's not going to just put it away when he decides he's not riding the thing anymore. But I don't want to shortchange any Larry McBride time. They're going to be back later on this season. He and Dave Van Tine put on a great show. Crowd goes crazy. That was awesome. Yeah. All right, let's talk about your round by round. You had to run Rat first round. Rat turned on Ron Torno. Mama Rat was there. He's local from the area too, from what I understand, or in the region. He left on nothing. And so you had a 1:34 reaction time. No doubt you were distracted by him leaving on nothing. But the qualifying performances, those 67s, you would have definitely run a world record had you guys not just been hit with 10 pounds. You were just a couple of thou off of that, 67, something like that in qualifying. You run a 70 first round. That's lower the round by a ton. The craziest stat of the whole weekend, I think, was that your worst run was 300ths better than your next closest competitor's best run, which that's Don the Snake used to say, rip their throats out. That's a perfect example. And first round 70, that just got everyone's attention. And I think kind of broke their backs right there.
Oh, absolutely. Ron Torno, I think he left before the tree was even activated. He said right when he seen me stage, he just accidentally took off, and it definitely threw me off as far as my reaction time. But my bike was a bracket bike all weekend. Between Friday and Saturday, it ran 67 on every lap, and at over, it was right at 200, a little bit over 200 every pass. So my bike was a bracket bike. Even with the wind, the new Gen 3 body the wind really didn't phase it until the shutdown, which that's pretty normal, once you unload the chassis. But that was a good run. Yeah, I think that was my best run on Sunday. The weather and everything got a little hotter, the track, everything got a little hotter. So, and then we went we were in race mode all day. So, it was all about being consistent as much as possible, as far as me on the tree and the bike. So it was a good first round. It got us some data for the day, and then we started plucking away.
Yeah, second round you went up against Mark Ingerson. Mark, who has come into 2023 coming in off his greatest season ever, and really had some good runs out there. Number one qualifier last year out there at Norwalk, I believe. First round he was 002 against Angie. In the second round he was 009 against you. And so watch out for Mark Ingerson. But you did what you had to do, right? 019, really good reaction time. 72, 5 at 200. That's, it's not beatable. If the rider can be 19 and you're low ET of the meet against anybody else but yourself, that's just, you're not going to be able to be beaten like that. So tell me about the run against Ingerson. And you had to know that he had a pretty good light because you had a good light.
Oh, absolutely. Ingerson's always on the light, and I knew going up there I was going to have to push it a little bit, so I was happy with my 19. I don't like going too much lower than that just because I don't like to push it that far. But I knew Mark was on the tree. He always is. And I honestly thought I I don't know. I didn't look over at all. I've been trying to stop that habit. That's my street bike habit. But yeah, it's hard racing those V twins because you hear them the whole time. I almost can't even hear my bike because those things are just thundering in the other lane. But yeah, Mark's always on the tree, and I always like racing Mark. Between him and Parker and all them, they're a good group of guys.
It's awesome stuff. All right, question has come in. Let's some questions in between so we can see the deal. Derek wants to know, what do you mean by bar bike? What is that? Like bar bike? And I know what you mean, but answer Derek so he understands.
So, bar bike is, basically like Pro Stock Car and Top Fuel and all that. They have a wheelie bar, where like my bike, Pro Street bike and Grudge bike, stuff like that, they have no wheelie bar. It's basically like your average bike you get on the showroom floor. So they have wheelie bars on them, to control the wheelie and the wheel speed and stuff like that, because overall they're a custom chromoly chassis. So it's, so no suspension, all that. So the only suspension we have is in the front end. And so after that, you basically use your wheelie bar to control what the bike's doing off the line.
Michael Phillips always says we should take the bars off these Pro Stock motorcycles. Is that something that's realistic? Could you ride one if there was no wheelie bar?
Yeah, I would. I mean, with today's technology and all the engine management, all the ECUs and all the stuff you could do with them, I feel like it would be feasible. You could do it. It wouldn't go as fast as they do, but it's definitely would be possible. It would definitely be sketchy for sure, but it could be done.
Michael Phillips, right? He wants it sketchy out there. He wants it to be a little crazy. All right, semifinal. This is fun, right? Eddie Krawick versus Gaige. He's 008 on you, Eddie, but you're 016, and that's the deal, man. 019, 016, really tough. Eddie runs 77. That's a good run for those guys. He was 77. He was 78, 75 in the neighborhood, was a number 4 qualifier, but was dispatched by the Gaige. Tell me about running Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, having to run, one of my bosses, it's always a little nerve-wracking for me. Obviously they want me to do good, but then at the same time, I gotta go out there and, hopefully take out the boss. And so, racing him, I knew he was gonna be on the light. Even though he said, "Oh, I'm not going to push it," he's like, "I had to push it against Joey the round before because I knew we were going to run close to each other," and but I knew he was going to be on it, and so that was a good run. It'd be for both of us. I mean, I wish we qualified on opposite sides of the ladder because I feel like we would have both been in the final, but it just didn't work out that way. I had a few struggles during qualifying. Eddie did, and but yeah, anytime I get to race him, I mean, it's I enjoy it. He's one of the best out there, and definitely I mean, everyone's good, so I gotta always be on my game. But to race him and have him be one of my be my boss, it's definitely a lot of pressure on my shoulders.
But you did not talk trash after it was over.
No, never.
No, not to Eddie. Don't do that. You'll get it back tenfold. Setting up the final round against Chip, right? Chip running for Matt Smith and Chip Ellis. Oh man, I everybody that I've ever talked to says great and wonderful things about Chip. That has been my personal experience as well. You had to probably know that everybody was rooting for him, right? Because that Chip's an older guy, but he's a little bit older guy, great fabricator. He's there to help everybody. He helps everybody. He does so many great things over there. And this is a great opportunity for Chip. Chip stormed through the field as well. Got the job done. Talk about preparing for a run against a guy, like you said, that you had the poster on the wall.
That was like I said, that was an all-time high getting a race Chip. He had an awesome weekend. I believe he qualified number 2. And so, I was happy to race him in the final, whether he got me or I won. So I was definitely, I was excited to race him. I knew he was going to be on it. He's one heck of a rider. That's why he's been doing this for so long, and he's ridden for a lot of the top tier teams, and so I knew I was going to have to be on my game. He got me on the tree, and luckily, we were able to, come around him on the big end. But yeah, getting a race Chip, I was nervous because I didn't know. I mean, we both do a little bit of grudge stuff on the side, and stuff like that. So I didn't know exactly what he was going to do on the line because I seen like him and Matt during qualifying, they were revving the motor back and forth. So I didn't know Chip was going to do any of that, which I wasn't nervous about that kind of stuff, but I didn't know if Chip was going to try or play in the games or whichever, which, I'm all for it. That stuff doesn't bother me. I think it's exciting for the fans, side of things, and exciting for the riders. So I was getting to race him. I mean, that's nothing. It doesn't get any better than that.
And you won the race. You deliver again. You remain undefeated. I was, messing with you about the Miami Dolphins from 1972. I recognize that we're still at the very beginning of this season, but you are undefeated, right? Like that's it's impressive. I don't know how far. I don't have the stat. Like, what is the furthest anyone has ever gotten into the season before they are unbeaten, right? I don't know that. We have to dig into it, like talk to Alan or Brian Loans or someone who could figure that out. Probably a lot of work, but nobody's beat you yet, kid. Like it's pretty amazing. And sounds like you're surprised.
Oh, I'm definitely surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised in the team. They put in all the hard work and, giving me awesome, bad hot rod to ride. So I'm not surprised on that aspect. I'm surprised in myself, holding my composure without racing against all those tough competitors. And not only that, to be able to be number one qualifier at every race and then win so far. I mean, that's it's when you sit back and really think about it, it's unbelievable. Andrew called me yesterday and we were just talking about back and forth a little bit, and he said his phone's been blowing up just because of how we've been doing it. Number one qualifier and then winning. I believe him and Matt Hines have both won 4 in a row at one point in time, and so he was talking about that. Yeah, I mean, that bike is it. I would say it's on rails. It's out there flexing Vance and Hines horsepower. I mean, it's a dream to ride. I mean, it's probably the smoothest bike I've ever ridden, and that's probably why it's such a bracket bike. I feel like I've adapted to it very well. I've adapted to the whole team, and I think that's what's helping everything go as smooth as it is.
Wow. Great stuff. All right. Question time for me. Education. I was having a conversation with a rider who I will not name, but we were talking about like riding technique and style. And he was listing off the best riders. He was like, the best riders. And he listed name, Chip's name got mentioned. Your name got mentioned. He said something about, and we were not able to finish the conversation, something about the head going forward. That when the head goes forward, that's the sign of a great rider. Can you please explain what that means? You know what I'm talking about just by me bringing that up.
Yep. So, I mean, so basically by talking about the head going forward is when you react off the tree and everything, I would say throw your body forward. Some people do it a lot more than others. Like Hector Jr., you could really see him do it. Some guys only do a little bit. I'm kind of like in between, I would say. So basically what it helps as a rider to me is it helps you be with the motorcycle, one-to-one with the motorcycle. So it doesn't throw you back or throw your weight off or throw your perspective off of where you're at on the track, and then so I feel I mainly do it, or I started doing it on my personal bike to help me be one-to-one with the bike as far as for the shift light and all that. So I think that's what they're really, referring to is overall. I mean, it helps with weight transfer and all kinds of different stuff. So it like I said, I think it just helps be one-to-one with the bike. I mean, you wouldn't think so just by watching, but as a rider, it makes a big difference.
Makes sense. And that's something like the different techniques. Some people are on the starting line and they're like kind of cash, and some people are super aggressive down in their stance. And I like that we can see the rider and what's going on. Donnie Dernberger out there. Donnie says, nice job, kid. Super excited for you guys. Not going to Epping though. Taking a little break. You guys started the season, took a big break, then a little mini season, and now another break in Epping. Are you guys in Bristol? What's your next race?
Our next race is Bristol. So
Okay.
I mean, I'm glad it's not a big break like in between Gainesville and Charlotte. So, but yeah, I'm excited for Bristol. I've never been there.
Oh, okay. You're going to love it. Oh, Bristol is one of the best tracks on the tour. I say that about every track, by the way, because Epping's one of the best tracks on the tour. And it's getting to the point where we're just appreciative of everybody that hosts us. And so cool to be back in Chicago like that. But Bristol, oh my gosh, one of the first like real palatial super tracks, like gorgeous. Like really, can this be possible that they built this drag strip? And they absolutely did. So you're going to love it. And we'll see if you can keep this amazing streak going. Gaige, is there anything you want to say to the fans out there before we let you go?
No, I mean, not besides that, I appreciate all the support, being out there and having a bunch of people come up, saying they're, a big fan of mine, and I hope I keep the streak going and they're rooting for me. I mean, I never could have dreamed about that, and all the people giving so much support and following me, and I mean, just the amount of messages I get, just from normal fans on my Facebook page and stuff like that. It's very overwhelming, and I can't thank all of them enough. Appreciate all of them for reaching out and supporting me and chasing the dream that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, you got it. And I saw your grandfather out there and your dad and the fam is all there, and it's great. And you're new on the scene, and so people are gonna give you a look and a second look. And I know some people are annoyed that you're dominating the way you are, but that's the kind of thing that brings attention. And I'll bring, some crazy names, right? Like look at Jeff Gordon. Mm-hmm. Jeff Gordon, who is this kid? What's he doing? He's winning everything. Oh my gosh. And suddenly there were thousands of fans that never paid attention that said, I don't want to root for Darrell Waltrip and I don't want to root for Dale Earnhardt, but I'm going to root for this kid, Jeff Gordon. And maybe on a smaller level, you can be that in pro stock motorcycle. Like fans of John Force and fans of Antron Brown might say, like, Eddie and I'm, Matt Smith, they've already got enough fans. I want to be a fan of somebody new. I'll be a fan of Gaige. Like, I think you're going to experience that phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, and I hope so. And if that's the case, that's awesome. Like I think I've touched it a few times. I think the best thing that's been happening in all the classes across is, the younger talent coming out, and, so we're getting new fans, I've been seeing a lot younger crowds out at the track again. And I think it's what NHRA really needed, or drag racing in general.
Drag racing in general. Absolutely. And hopefully they all know, like, not only are they welcome, but they're appreciated and wanted, and bring your friends. And if we could have like packs of, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids out there, not only are, we're trying to hook them up with jobs, we're trying to get them, we're trying to do a lot of good things for that crowd, because that's what it's going to take for drag racing to not only continue and survive, but to thrive and grow
absolutely.
Is that group. Gaige, thank you very much for taking a little time. I know you just got off of work and now you're at your shop, right? So you're going to go to work again.
Oh, absolutely. Never ends. But thanks, Joe, for having me on your show. And I guess I'll see you in Bristol.
We'll see you in Bristol. Enjoy your, couple weekends off, Indy 500, Grand Prix of Monaco, Coke 600, big weekend this weekend. And then we'll be back in Epping, and then we'll see you in Bristol the following week. Thank you so much, Gaige.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Gaige Herrera with us here on WFO Radio. What a great kid. And you know what I love? I love the fact that he's just getting used to interviews and stuff. Like, there's so many people, they come into drag racing, and what kind of like media experience have they had prior to this? Not a lot. And I'm seeing like he's revealing all, details about his personality himself. He's revealing himself. He's getting a lot of time. And that's what is the point of WFO from the very beginning, when we started like 12, 13 years ago, is to showcase the personalities in a way that you're not going to do it in a 2-minute interview. You're just not. You're not going to get to know what he's like in 2 minutes. In 30 minutes, you're going to get to know what he's like. And what's he like? Seems like humble kid with an edge who wants to compete, not afraid to get on Spider-Man McBride's bike and would do it one time at very least, right? Is into the games, into all of that. Like, I think we know Gaige Herrera a little bit better than we did earlier today. So congratulations to Gaige, and thanks for coming on the show. And, he could be on every interview. Winner interview could be Gaige this year. Like, that's possible on WFO because you win your way on. It's not even about an invite. You win your way on the show. Thank you, Gaige. Appreciate you. All right, final comments in the comment section, guys. Let's see what you got. Look at this. Monica, great interview. Rick says, thanks, Joe and Gaige, for a great show. Great questions, dialogue. See you in Bristol. Yeah, I'll be there. Let's see. Jill, actions speak louder than words. They really do. I wonder what that's related to, though. Like, what's that related to, Donovan? It's kind of mysterious. Dugenet says, great job, as always. AJ says, great job today on the show. Thank you so much. Let me tell you about a couple of the other people who make it possible for me to go WFO, like Marvin Rodak and Rodak'sCoffeeandGrills.com, the hot sauces, the spice rubs. Everything's so good. Coffee roasted fresh per your order. If you haven't tried Marvin's coffee, you really should. He'll be down there at the Stampede of Speed. He's located in Fort Worth, Texas. Grills and tools and tips and information. If you're looking for a new grill for your race team setup or for tailgating, he's got all of that stuff. 817-924-6821. Call Marvin Rodak and have a conversation. Definitely get some coffee and hot sauce and spice rub. We've been telling you about Frank Hawley's drag racing school and how they're going to have the Dragster Adventure, the final one, out there at Bandimere Speedway. You driving a dragster. This is the dragster that you will be driving. Look at that. Imagine that. You driving a dragster. How cool is that? Bandimere Speedway, July 24th, 25th, 26th, Dragster Adventure on the 24th. Call 866-480-7223. For those of you listening audio only, I'm reading it off this wonderful graphic. Everybody else says Frank Hawley's drag racing school coming to Bandimere, and your chance to race down the historic Bandimere Speedway for one of the final times. How that thing is not sold out in less than 24 hours, I have no idea. So get on there, pick up the phone and call them and tell them you heard about it on WFO radio and that you want to get in on it, and say it in a dark, intimidating voice. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machine. They'll get it. It's humor. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Judd, Linda Massengill, Brian Massengill. Same deal. I want you to call them and say, man, I heard about it on WFO. Samtech.edu. They've got engine block programs. They got CNC programs. They got motorsport EFI tuning. And they're starting up new classes all the time down there in the Houston, Texas area. So if you want to become a machinist, a crew member, go to samtech.edu and check out their situation, because the sport needs you and your country needs you. We need people who are qualified to do stuff. And then there's our Patreon co-hosts. You can join Patreon. It costs you some money, but you support WFO. You're a VIP. You get a backstage pass. You get to participate with the Ignition Show. You get to hear it from Heiner and Monday Motivation. We posted a new Hear It from Heiner show with Michael Heiner last night. This guy has made 3 final rounds in a row. His driver, Derek Kramer, is driving great. Chris Vang, who does the clutch, is winning stock. The Get Biofuel team is having a moment in the NHRA right now. They are third in the points. Dallas first, Hartford second. They're third and looking good. But what works? How does it all work? How are the decisions made? Why do they lose the final? Michael Heiner said we got very aggressive in the final round, and all kinds of interesting notes. Like every car in Pro Stock that was first out behind prep in the left lane shook the tires throughout the entire weekend. Hartford shook the tires. They shook the tires in the final round. A little second guessing, but it's a great show if you love Pro Stock. Hear it from Heiner for Patreons only. And if you want to hear the Ignition Show, he's been on there too, because, he wanted to hear his own stuff, so he joined. Right. So, Joe, the guy's doing a show to help the Patreons, and so you made him become a Patreon? And if you sign up for a year, you get a T-shirt along with your stickers and your patch, and I'll be sending all that stuff out very, very soon. And you've probably got tired of hearing that, but it's true. Been a lot of traveling going on. A lot of traveling. Chicago was amazing. Project Pontiac is advancing as well. Just got my motor plate and my mid plate. And so now we've got to modify the chassis. Why are we breaking these blocks? Because we're using stock location motor mounts, stock location solid motor mounts. Should have done that years and years ago. Stock location motor mounts, making over 600 horsepower with a 3,300 pound car. That's a mistake. Mistake. Motor plate, mid plate. How do we take this bracket car and turn it to an NHRA Super Street caliber machine? That is the deal. And big thanks to everybody who supports WFO, like FTI Performance, Transmissions and Torque Converters, Total Seal, Foggett, Bernie's, Phillips Connect. We're going to have Justin Ashley on next week, find out a little bit more about this Maynard Ashley Racing project. Like, okay, what does this all mean? They've like kind of been win or first round out, but you get a couple of wins, you're good to go. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, Road Acts, of course, in Samtech. Also, podcast alert for you podcast listeners. The NHRA Insider podcast features Brian Loans, who invited me to be a guest this week. I was working with NHRA on Fox, and Brian invited me on. We had a nice spirited conversation about Chicago and Route 66 Raceway, but also Andrew Hines is on there. So you heard from Gaige here. You can hear Andrew there. What does Andrew think about Gaige? You just heard what Gaige thinks about Andrew, and also my take on whatever Brian was serving up. They're like, here, I can tell you whatever I want to tell you, but when I'm a guest on someone else's show, which I love being, whatever they want to talk about. It was good stuff. All right, let's see what the comments are in the comment section. This guy says, I'm late, Joe is the best. Thank you. I had such a great time, guys. This past weekend was really, really great. Good luck tomorrow. Going to West Palm Beach for the final battle. It's like the army of the dead is coming in Game of Thrones. What are we going to do? It's the final battle. The magistrate that I went up and we gave those impassioned speeches ruled against the racers. But the county commissioners are under no obligation to accept the ruling of the magistrate. So, Madeline Marconi, who everybody knows on this show, has summoned everyone. This is the one, the final battle. If you're out there listening to the show right now and you live in South Florida, West Palm, Orlando, if you've ever used Palm Beach International Raceway, Moroso Motorsports Park, and you have any kernel of hope that maybe it could be saved, this is the final battle. This is it. It all comes down to this. I feel like you should probably have comprehended that by now, so I'm going to move forward. So I'm going up there. I'm going to deliver a message, and we'll see what happens. Am I confident? It doesn't matter. You fight the fight, whether you're going to win or you're going to lose. That's out of your control. You prepare yourself, you show up, you make your case with pure of heart, genuine intentions, and hopefully some facts. And we're going to make a case to these county commissioners that this track is worth more to them as a racing facility than it is as a big box location logistics hub. Chicago, Route 66 Raceway, is right in a hub area. There are multiple large square buildings. And what do you get when you have that? You get trucks, nonstop trucks coming and going and coming and going and getting into the racetrack, just trucks. And I talked to some of the local politicians and local people, and they said that those trucks aren't benefiting the local community. They're not buying gas at the local gas stations. They go to the stop, they drop the trailer, they get another trailer, they go. It's not like they're getting fuel there. It's not like they're getting food there. It's that the race is a reason for Joliet to be a destination. I went to downtown Joliet. I drove through. There was a little bit of a beef. I'll let you behind the scenes. We started saying Chicago, Chicago, Chicago. And some people were like, you guys really need to say Joliet. And we're like, that makes sense. But when you fly in, when you tell people about it, like, where do the Miami Dolphins play? The Miami Dolphins play in Miami Gardens, Florida at the Formula One track, right? But they don't call them the Miami Gardens Dolphins. They call them the Miami Dolphins. And so maybe it's a bit of a bad habit, but we were calling, Chicago, but it's Joliet. So when the opportunity to go downtown to to Joliet and see their downtown revival. There's a couple of steakhouses down there. There's a couple of great bars. There's a rock club called The Forge where a lot of like metal bands go. It was really cool. I think it was received as a home run, the whole event. But what could be better if there's a next year? And we don't know if there's going to be a next year. Like it's every race there is like as if it's the last race there, because maybe there'll be another one or maybe they won't. We just don't know. And it's out of our control. So we can't even, it's out of our control. But a fan fest in downtown Joliet might be fun Thursday night. And I think we could do something there. There's a ball field. There's a baseball stadium. There's a little downtown. There's some bars. There's some clubs. There's some, I don't know if there's clubs. When I say bars, I end up saying clubs. What's Ford say? Great interview, Joe. Most of all last weekend's coverage was the best. Everyone stepped up and did an awesome job. Thank you so much. Blake, I have a friend who lives about 25 minutes away from Bristol. I hope to go there someday. Make sure your friend goes, Blake. Tell your friend that he's obligated to go out to the races and have an experience and then report back. Right? Simple as that. I'm fighting to keep Wild Horse Pass here in Arizona. I just got confirmation it will now stay open through 2023. Every event since NHRA has been here has sold out. Keep the track. Keep the track. Okay, so I can't confirm that what this unknown Facebook user is saying is true. I don't know, but I hope it is. I hope it is. And that's it. That's all we can do. Let me check NHRA.com for any big news. See, a behind-the-scenes video is up. Gaige Herrera's hot start. Nitro teams and pro mods get ready for the New England Nationals. Maddie Gordon gets her license. Way to go, Maddie. That's cool. But no big breaking news. And one more thing on the NHRA Insider Podcast. Brian Loans is a friend, right? Not only is he a excellent broadcaster and has really helped take the TV show to the next level, but the guy's a friend. Like I roomed with him at the NHRA for many years when I first started. At the start of his NHRA Insider Podcast, he addresses the Camping World stuff. And he does it in a very cool and aggressive way. Aggressive, because he recognizes the way I recognize, and so many of us recognize, that the thing that is maybe our greatest challenge is that we have so many people within our supposed fan base or even racer base who are, negative, who are Bill Paxton and aliens. Do you remember aliens? Do you remember Bill Paxton? They're supposedly Marines. My dad was so annoyed. My dad, Marine Corps, Semper Fi, John Basilone, whatever. We're going to figure it out. Improvise, adapt, overcome. But in the movie Aliens, Bill Paxton was like, aliens, man, game over. We're going to lose, man. And he fetal positioned, and he was really kind of a terrible example. And I feel like that's the best example to these people. You lose Camping World, and that's it. It's over, man. Game over, man. And they keep doing it. Every story. How many times since 2000 have they, Winston's leaving, game over, man. And they keep doing it. It's the same few people, and they never get checked, and they never get called out, and they never are put in a position to have to respond to their mistaken call from years past. You make the prediction over and over again, and it never comes true, and you just keep making it, and no one ever calls you out. Brian called him out pretty well, I think. And so go check out that show. And what I will say is an exciting opportunity. Remember when John Force lost his manufacturer, he lost his sponsor, he lost everything. It's game over, man. John Force. And what happened? Old World Industries stepped up, and Chevrolet stepped up, and all of that stuff. Robert Haidt last year. Oh, man, game over. Auto Club, that's it. And what happened? Cornwell Tools steps up. Like, it's really time to stop doing that, but they will never stop doing that. They'll never stop doing that. So what has to happen? This aggressive pushback, some humiliation. Just stop, please, with the negativity. Stop it. That's always good stuff. Let's see. A couple more questions, and we'll do that as we go out the door. Because it's dinner time for most folks. They're about to have a wonderful meal. Jill says, why no Mountain Motor Pro Stock at Epping? Not many entries. I don't know. I think that the schedule was created with the help of the teams, and I kind of feel like Mountain Motor Pro Stock is a mid-country kind of thing. You notice the pro mods don't go west, and there's some categories that travel there is just, I hate to say it, not financially worth it. Camping World Series, they got to go where they got to go. Like the nitro cars go everywhere. It's part of being a pro drag racer. There's race in Epping. There's going to be 12,000 fans that show up with their money in hand, ready to see you. They go. NHRA works with these other categories to make it easier. Good day and good morning from down under, everyone. Matt Clark says we should start calling him 12 gauge. Yeah, Matt, I heard your deal. Like shotgun. Maybe. Joe, you should sponsor the NHRA with WFO Radio in 2025. Blake, I would be happy to if we could get like a couple of 100,000 Patreons. Let's do it. WFO Radio on Patreon. Patreon.com/WFO Radio. Not all Top Fuel are going, as is their choice. It's to travel through the most densely packed area of our country to get up to the New England area is a challenge. And some teams choose to not go. But the way I look at it is a race is not about who's not going. It's about who's going. So we'll see. That's next week. And whoever goes, good on them. All right, guys. Thanks to Gaige. Appreciate all of you. Tomorrow, 4 p.m., Wilkerson and Clay Milliken together.